The first thing I learned about ballroom dancing was that there are places a man is allowed to put his hand and places that make an entire room stop breathing. I found that out on a Thursday night in a studio above a bakery in downtown Portland, with flower-sweet air coming through the vents and six strangers pretending not to watch me panic. My dance instructor stepped closer, took my right hand off the polite, harmless spot near her shoulder blade, and slid it lower on her waist. Not indecent, not cheap. Just lower, warm, confident, certain. Then she looked up at me and said, "I want your hand right here." Every mirror in the studio caught my face at once. I looked like a man being asked to defuse a bomb with no prior training. Her mouth curved. "Breathe, Noah." My name is Noah Whitaker. I was 25 then, old enough to pay my own car insurance and young enough to believe avoiding embarrassment was a life strategy. I worked as a junior project manager for a construction company, which meant I spent most of my day coordinating grown men who communicated mainly through sighs, invoices, and coffee-stained blueprints. I could handle a delayed concrete pour, a furious subcontractor, and a client who changed tile samples after ordering 12 pallets. But a woman in a black wrap dress telling me exactly where to hold her? Apparently, that was where my leadership skills went to die. Her name was Lila Hart, 26, dance instructor. Auburn hair pinned up with two loose strands that had no respect for gravity. She had the kind of posture that made everyone around her suddenly aware they had been standing wrong their entire lives. And she had eyes that did something dangerous. They made you feel like she had noticed the person you were trying very hard not to be. "Your hand," she said, tapping my knuckles with two fingers, "is not a parking ticket. Don't leave it floating out there like you're afraid I'll tow it." A woman near the windows laughed. I gave Lila my most dignified nod, which, according to the mirror, looked like a man agreeing to surgery. "Just trying to be respectful," I said. "I know." Her voice softened, and that was worse. Respectful is good. Terrified is not the assignment. That got another laugh from the class. I should explain how I ended up there, because nobody wakes up one morning and thinks, "You know what my life needs? Public hip movement." 3 weeks earlier, my younger sister Hannah called me during lunch and said, "You love me, right?" That is how siblings put a blindfold on you before pushing you off a cliff. "What did you do?" I asked. "I didn't do anything. I'm getting married." "I know that part. And I need you to dance with Mom at the reception. That sounds survivable. And maybe join the wedding party dance." I looked down at my turkey sandwich like it might testify on my behalf. Defined, maybe. It's choreographed. No. It's simple. No. It's family. Emotional blackmail. Exactly, so you'll do it. The problem was I had a history with dancing, not dramatic. Nobody got injured. No tragic prom story involving sprinklers. Just one very bad college formal where my girlfriend at the time, Kelly, laughed in front of her friends and said, "Noah dances like he's apologizing to the floor." Everyone laughed because they were 19 and cruel in the lazy way 19-year-olds can be. I laughed too, then I didn't dance again for 6 years. So when Hannah sent me the link to Heart and Step Social Dance, I signed up for the beginner group class under the name N. Whitaker, as if ballroom instructors were government agents and would somehow fail to identify me if I hid my vowels. The studio was smaller than I expected. Brick walls, tall mirrors, string lights along the ceiling, and old wood floors scarred by years of heels and nervous men. The first night, Lila clapped her hands once and said, "Nobody here is bad at dancing. Some of you are just negotiating with gravity." I liked her immediately. That annoyed me. I had come prepared to endure, to count steps, to survive 6 classes, dance with my mother, and retreat safely back into a life where nobody asked my hips for cooperation. I had not come prepared for Lila Hart. She didn't flirt with everyone, which made it harder to dismiss the way she looked at me. She teased, sure. She teased the retired dentist, who led every step like he was pushing a lawnmower. She teased the couple who argued in whispers but somehow always ended up holding hands. She teased the college kid who wore sunglasses indoors once and never recovered socially. But with me, there was this tiny pause before she spoke. Like she chose the words more carefully. Like I had become a puzzle she wasn't ready to put away. By the third class, she knew I counted under my breath. 1, 2, 3, I muttered, as we practiced a slow rumba box step. Lila drifted past, stopped behind me, and said, "You know, Noah, you're allowed to enjoy the music. It won't report you to management. I'm in construction. Everything reports to management." She laughed, and I nearly stepped on my own foot. That was the first warning sign. The second was the night she asked me to stay after class. Everyone else was packing up. The bakery downstairs had closed, leaving the air buttery and quiet. Rain ticked against the windows. Lila was changing the music on an old speaker, the glow from her phone lighting her face. "You're leaving too fast," she said. I froze with my jacket halfway on. Generally, that's how I escape humiliation. You're not humiliated. Not for lack of opportunity. She walked toward me, arms folded, studying me like a coach deciding whether to bench a player or save him. "You're holding back." "I am protecting the public." "No." Her smile faded just a little. "You're protecting yourself." That landed too close. I looked at the floor, at the scratches and scuffs, at all the proof that people had survived being seen. Isn't that what adults do? Sometimes. She came closer, not touching me yet. And sometimes they call it maturity when it's really just fear with better shoes. I should have made a joke. That was my usual move, a little deflection, a half smile, then out the door before anything honest could form. But Lila had this way of not filling the silence. She let it sit there until I had to decide what kind of man I wanted to be inside it. "My ex laughed at me once," I said, "in college. It was stupid." "Doesn't sound stupid if you still remember it." "It was one sentence." "Some sentences have teeth." I looked at her then. The studio lights caught the gold hoops in her ears. Her black dress wrapped at her waist and one loose strand of hair rested against her cheek. She wasn't looking at me with pity. That mattered. Pity would have made me leave. She looked curious, gentle, a little angry on my behalf, and maybe, though I didn't trust myself enough to name it yet, attracted. "You ever get tired of reading people that accurately?" I asked. "Yes," she said, "but it's my only party trick besides making accountants salsa. I'm not an accountant. You count like one." That made me laugh, and the tension broke just enough for her to step closer. "Come here," she said. 2 words, simple, professional. My heart still reacted like an idiot. She started the music again, something slow with a brushed drum beat and a guitar line that seemed to know secrets. Then she faced me and lifted her left hand. "Just 1 minute," she said. "No class, no audience, no sister's wedding. Just you and me, and you don't get to apologize to the floor." I took her hand. Her fingers were cool from holding her phone. Her palm fit against mine with unsettling ease. I placed my other hand carefully on her back. Too high, polite, safe, cowardly. She glanced at it, then at me. The corner of her mouth moved. Closer. I swallowed. "Lila?" "It's a frame, Noah. I'm not asking for your bank password." I moved half an inch closer. She sighed, but not impatiently. More like she was trying not to smile at a dog refusing to walk through an open door. Then she reached for my wrist. Her touch was light, but it sent awareness straight up my arm. She guided my hand down to the curve of her waist and held it there under hers. "That," she said quietly, "is where your lead lives." The room changed. Not because anything inappropriate happened. It didn't. It changed because, for the first time in years, I wasn't performing indifference. I was standing close to a woman who smelled faintly like vanilla and rain, who was watching my face like she wanted the truth from it, and my hand was on her waist exactly where she had put it. Better? I asked, though my voice came out lower than intended. Her eyes flicked to my mouth for half a second. Half a second is plenty if you're already doomed. Much, she said. We moved. One step, then another. I expected to feel clumsy, I did. But underneath that, something else happened. Lila followed my lead, and when I got it right, her body answered mine with a smooth turn that made me feel, for one dangerous second, like I might not be hopeless. You're thinking again, she murmured. I've been warned about that. Good, stop. That's your teaching method? With you? Yes. With me specifically? She looked up and the teasing left her face so gradually I almost missed it. With you? She said. I think thinking is where you hide. The music kept going. Rain traced the windows. Her hand shifted on my shoulder and her thumb brushed the seam of my shirt like an accident that had made up its mind. I forgot the count. I forgot the floor. I forgot the sentence Kelly had said 6 years earlier. For 3 slow measures, there was only Lila's waist under my hand and the startling fact that she trusted me to hold her there. Then the studio door opened. Cold air rushed in from the stairwell, carrying the smell of wet pavement. Lila stiffened before I even looked over. A man stood in the doorway holding a garment bag over one shoulder. He was tall, polished, and too comfortable entering a room he no longer owned. His eyes landed on my hand at Lila's waist, then on her face. Well, he said, smiling without warmth, I guess you found yourself a replacement. Lila's fingers tightened around mine, and for the first time since I'd met her, my dance instructor looked uncertain. For one very long second, nobody moved. My hand was still on Lila's waist. Her hand was still in mine. The man in the doorway noticed both with the sharp satisfaction of someone finding evidence he had hoped existed. Lila let go first, not yanked away, not guilty, just controlled, like every inch of her had been trained to obey before emotion got a vote. Julian, she said. There are names people say like greetings, and names people say like they've stepped barefoot on glass. Julian smiled and walked in as if the studio had been waiting for him. That's all I get? It's after hours. I still have a key. Then you should return it. His gaze shifted to me. Up and down, quick inventory, work boots by the door, button-down sleeves rolled to my elbows, hair that had survived a day on a job site and then lost a second battle to rain. Student? He asked. Lila's chin lifted. Yes. The word landed wrong in my chest. Accurate, sure, but still wrong. Julian's smile deepened. Private lesson? Something like that, I said. Lila looked at me. I don't know why I said it. I wasn't trying to mark territory. I had no territory to mark. 3 classes and 1 dangerous hand placement did not give a man rights. But I heard the edge in Julian's voice, saw the flicker in Lila's expression, and some part of me refused to let him reduce that quiet minute between us into something cheap. Julian gave a soft laugh. Cute. I had been called worse by subcontractors before breakfast. Lila stepped between us by half a pace. Why are you here? He lifted the garment bag. Found this in my storage unit, thought you might want it back. She didn't reach for it. I noticed that. Julian noticed me noticing. It's her silver showcase dress, he said to me as if we were old friends discussing weather. Back when she still competed. Lila's face closed. Not much, just enough. You can leave it by the desk, she said. I was hoping we could talk. We can't. Lila. Her name in his mouth made my jaw tighten, too familiar, too practiced. She looked at me then, and whatever she saw on my face made her expression soften with apology. Noah, you don't have to stay. That was the polite exit. I could take it. Should take it. This was clearly history with sharp edges, and I was just the beginner who counted under his breath and had nearly achieved basic competence without spraining anything. But leaving felt like letting Julian decide what the room became. So I picked up my jacket from the bench and said, "Actually, I was going to ask if you wanted coffee." Both of them looked at me. Even I looked at me. Internally, Lila blinked. "Coffee? Bakery downstairs." I nodded toward the floor. "Unless they're closed." "They close at 8? It's 7:53. Julian's expression lost its amusement. Lila's mouth parted slightly, and then there it was, that tiny curve I had started to crave. 7 minutes, she said. "I'm a project manager. I respect deadlines." "Do you?" "With pastries, absolutely." She looked at Julian. "Leave the dress. Lock the door behind you." Then she walked to the cubbies, grabbed a soft gray cardigan, and slipped it over her dress. I held the studio door open for her, not because she needed it, because I wanted to. As we passed Julian, he said, low, "You always did like making a scene." Lila stopped. I felt the air change. Then she looked back at him and smiled, not warmly but beautifully. "No, I just finally stopped letting you choreograph me." We left him standing there. The bakery downstairs smelled like cinnamon, coffee, and forgiveness. The teenager at the counter was wiping trays and looked mildly devastated when we walked in 6 minutes before close. But Lila smiled at him and ordered 2 coffees and a box of day-old almond croissants. "Day-old?" I asked when we sat by the window. She tore open a sugar packet. "They're half price and morally superior." "How can a croissant be morally superior? It has suffered. It has depth." I laughed, and something in her shoulders eased. Outside, rain blurred the streetlights into gold streaks. Upstairs, Julian could have been pacing or leaving or burning holes in the mirror with his ego. Down here, Lila wrapped both hands around her coffee and looked like someone slowly coming back into her own skin. "I'm sorry," she said. "For what?" That was awkward. I voluntarily attended a beginner rumba class. My awkward threshold is heroic. Her smile came quick, then faded. "Julian and I used to dance together." I gathered. "And date." I gathered that too. "And compete." That part came with a garment bag. She looked down into her coffee. "We were good. Really good. Until we weren't." I waited. The rain did the talking for a moment. "He made everything feel like a test," she said. "How I stood. How I taught. What I wore. How much I smiled at students, at judges, at him." Her finger traced the rim of her cup. After a while, I couldn't tell the difference between partnership and permission. Something in my chest pulled tight. She gave a small, embarrassed laugh. That sounded dramatic. It sounded honest. Her eyes lifted to mine. There was no mirror here, no music, no class pretending not to watch. Just Lila, tired and real under bakery lights, with a crumb of almond pastry near her thumb. "You do that," she said. "What?" "Make it hard to dodge." I almost said, "You started it." Instead, I said, "Only with people I want to know." The silence after that was not uncomfortable. It was alive. Lila's gaze dipped again to my mouth, and this time I knew I wasn't imagining it. My pulse kicked like a hammer against wood. "Careful, Noah," she said softly. "With what?" "Looking at me like that." "How am I looking at you?" "Like you forgot I'm your teacher." I leaned back, partly because if I didn't, I might do something reckless over a shared box of discount croissants. "I haven't forgotten." "No?" "No, you're very strict." "I am not." "You moved my hand with the authority of a traffic cop." "Your hand was lost." "My hand was respectful." "Your hand was hiding." I smiled despite myself. "You have a theory for everything." "With you?" "Yes." "With me specifically?" I asked, echoing her from upstairs. Her lips parted. Her confidence flickered, and behind it I saw something sweeter, something uncertain. "With you specifically," she said. The bakery kid announced they were closing in 2 minutes, which may have saved both of us from whatever was about to happen. We stepped outside under the narrow awning. Rain fell hard, drumming on the metal above us. Lila hugged the croissant box to her chest. "My car is 2 blocks that way," she said. "Mine's 3 the other." Neither of us moved. Her hair had loosened more, auburn strands curling near her cheek. I wanted to tuck one back. I did not. I was learning there was a difference between wanting and taking. "Thank you for the coffee," she said. "Thank you for not letting me apologize to the floor." That made her smile again, but it was softer now. Then she did something that removed every sensible thought from my head. She stepped closer, rose slightly on her toes, and pressed a kiss to my cheek. Not the corner of my mouth, not quite, but close enough that I felt the warmth of her breath first, then the gentle brush of her lips, then the absence of them like a question. "For the record," she whispered, "you're not hopeless." I turned my head a fraction. Her face was inches from mine. The rain got louder, or my blood did. "Lila," I said. Her eyes searched mine. "Yes?" I could have kissed her. I wanted to so badly my hand actually flexed at my side, but Julian's shadow was still upstairs. The teacher-student line was still there. And Lila had spent too long with a man who turned closeness into control. So I chose her by not rushing. "I'd like to take you out," and I said. "Not as a student. Not after class by accident. A real date, if you want that." Her expression changed in a way I would remember for years. Not surprise. Relief. Desire, too, but relief first. "I want that," she said. 3 words. Simple. Professional in no possible universe. "Saturday?" I asked. "I teach until 4. "Dinner at 6? She tilted her head. "You're very confident for a man who still fears hip movement." I contain multitudes. She laughed, and then she reached for my hand, just briefly. Her fingers slid between mine, squeezed once, and let go. "Saturday at 6, Noah." I watched her walk into the rain, croissant box tucked under her cardigan, and felt something in me rearrange. Not fixed, not yet, but turned toward the music. By Saturday at 5:30, I had changed shirts 4 times and learned an important truth about myself. I could manage a $1 million renovation schedule, but I could not choose date clothes without spiraling. My sister Hannah called while I was staring at 2 nearly identical blue shirts on my bed. "You're being weird," she said. I answered the phone normally. "You said, 'This is Noah,' like you were accepting a business award." "I'm busy." "With what?" "Adult responsibilities." "Oh my gosh! Is this about the dance teacher?" I went still. "How would you know that?" "You used her full name twice when describing a group class. Men only do that when they're scared or interested. I say full names all the time." "No, you don't, Noah Whitaker." I looked at the shirts again. What does one wear to dinner with someone who owns mirrors professionally? Hannah screamed so loudly I held the phone away. "Stop," I said. "You have a date with Lila Hart?" "Apparently, I do say full names." "This is amazing." "It's terrifying." "Good. Wear the darker shirt. Don't talk about lumber prices unless she asks. And if she kisses you, don't thank her like she handed you a receipt." "I hate that you know me." "Love you too." I wore the darker shirt. At 6 exactly, I arrived outside a small Italian place, on a side street lit with old lamps and wet pavement shine. Lila was already there, standing beneath the awning in a green dress and ankle boots, her hair down for the first time since I'd met her. That detail hit me harder than expected. In the studio, her hair was always pinned, controlled, functional. Tonight it fell around her shoulders in loose auburn waves, and I had the ridiculous thought that she had let the evening see something private. She saw me looking. "Is the dress wrong?" she asked. "No." My voice came out too fast. "The dress is extremely not wrong." Her smile warmed under the awning light. "Extremely not wrong. Construction men really do have poetry in them. We hide it behind drywall." The hostess seated us at a small table near the window. Candle between us, rain outside. A menu I pretended to read while entirely aware of Lila's knee almost touching mine beneath the table. For the first 10 minutes, we behaved. We discussed safe things, favorite restaurants, her worst beginner class, my worst job site disaster, which involved a raccoon, 3 electricians, and 1 very expensive chandelier. Lila laughed with her whole face, not the polite studio laugh, not the "I'm making students" comfortable laugh, a real one. It made me want to earn another. "So," she said after the waiter left with our orders, "tell me something not on the student intake form." "You mean other than emergency contact and vague fear of salsa?" "Especially vague fear of salsa." I turned my water glass between my palms. I used to draw houses when I was a kid, not normal kid houses. Full floor plans, secret rooms, terrible plumbing logic. Her eyes softened. "That's why construction." "Partly, I like the idea of making a place real. Taking lines on paper and turning them into somewhere people could live." I shrugged. That sounded less sentimental in my head. "No," she said. "It sounded like you." There it was again. That feeling of being seen without being exposed. "What about you?" I asked. "Something not on the studio website." She looked at the candle flame. "I almost quit dancing after Julian." My hand stilled on the glass. She didn't say it dramatically, just quietly, as if the truth had been waiting under the table with us. I thought if I couldn't compete anymore, maybe I had failed at the only thing I was ever great at. Teaching was supposed to be temporary. Her smile tilted. Then I met Mrs. Alvarez. The lawnmower dentist's wife? The very same. She came in after hip surgery and cried because she couldn't turn without pain. 6 months later, she danced at her granddaughter's quinceañera. Lila's eyes shone a little. That's when I realized dancing wasn't only about winning. Sometimes it's about giving someone a piece of themselves back. I forgot to be nervous for a moment. "You did that for me," I said. Her gaze lifted. My pulse did too, but I made myself stay with it. "The sentence with teeth," I said. "You pulled some of them." Lila's expression changed, all her teasing folding into something tender. "I didn't pull them," she said. "I just showed you they weren't yours." Our food arrived, saving me from falling in love over pasta like a man in a movie my sister would mock and secretly cry over. After dinner, Lila insisted on ordering tiramisu for the table, then claimed the best half with a dancer's speed and no remorse. "You have no honor," I said. "I have excellent survival instincts. You teach trust and steal dessert." Both can be true. When we stepped outside, the rain had stopped. The city smelled clean and music drifted from a bar down the block, something old and jazzy with a brass section. Lila paused on the sidewalk. I knew that look now. "What?" I asked. She held out her hand. "Dance with me." "Here?" "No, Noah, in a theoretical ballroom located inside your anxiety. Yes, here." There are people. There are always people. I'm wearing street shoes. I'll alert the authorities. I glanced around. A couple smoking under a patio heater, a cyclist locking his bike, a woman walking a tiny dog in a sweater. Nobody cared. That might have been the most freeing part. So I took her hand. Right there on the sidewalk under old lamps and dripping awnings, Lila stepped close. Not instructor close. Date close. There is a difference. Instructor close still leaves space for correction. Date close asks what you're going to do with the wanting. My right hand found her waist. This time, I didn't hesitate. Her eyes flickered with approval, and it went through me like heat. "Well, look at you," she murmured. I had a strict teacher. "She sounds brilliant. Bossy. Gifted. Alarmingly fond of croissants." Lila laughed softly and we moved. No mirrors, no counts, just a slow sway at first, then a turn when she followed my lead like she had decided to trust more than my feet. The jazz from the bar spilled around us. Her dress brushed my leg. My thumb rested at her waist, and beneath it I could feel the small shift of her breath. "You're not counting," she said. "I know." "Do you miss it?" "Not even a little." She looked up at me, and the whole street seemed to narrow to her face. "I'm glad you asked me out," she said. "I almost didn't." "I know." "That obvious?" "With you specifically?" "Yes." I smiled, but her expression stayed open. Vulnerable. So I gave her the truth. "I didn't want you to feel pressured. After Julian, after everything." Her hand tightened. In mine. "Noah, I spent years being handled by someone who made every choice feel like a debt. You asking and waiting?" She swallowed. "That felt like a choice I got to make." The words settled between us, warm and fragile. "I want to kiss you," I said. Her breath caught. Then she stepped closer until the tips of her boots touched mine. "I want you to." So I did. Gently at first, because the moment deserved gentleness. Her lips were soft and warm, tasting faintly of coffee and cocoa. Her fingers slid up from my shoulder to the back of my neck, and the kiss deepened because she asked without words, and I answered. The world did not stop. A car passed, someone laughed down the street. The tiny dog barked once, judgmental and ignored. But something inside me went completely still. When we broke apart, her forehead rested against my chin for a second. "Well," she whispered. I brushed my thumb along her waist. "Good well or bad well?" "Extremely not wrong well." I laughed, and she kissed me again, quicker this time, smiling into it. Then her phone buzzed. She ignored it. It buzzed again. A shadow crossed her face when she checked the screen. "Julian," she didn't answer. She turned the phone over in her palm like it had become something unpleasant. "Do you need to get that?" I asked. "No." Her voice was steady, but her shoulders had tightened. "I don't." I wanted to say a dozen protective things. I said none of them. Instead, I took her hand. "Walk with me?" She looked at our joined fingers, then up at my face. The tension eased. "Yes," she said, "but if you lead me into a puddle, I'm revoking your progress." We walked 3 blocks with our hands linked, talking about nothing serious on purpose. Her favorite terrible movie. My belief that cilantro tasted like soap. Her passionate argument that people who clapped on 1 and 3 deserved education, not shame. By the time we reached her car, the softness had returned. She leaned against the driver's door and tugged me closer by one finger hooked in my belt loop. That tiny, bold gesture nearly ended me. "Saturday was a good idea," she said. "It's still Saturday." "Then maybe don't waste the rest of it." I grinned. "Is that a challenge?" "With you specifically?" She smiled. "Always." And this time, when I kissed her, neither of us was gentle for very long. The next morning I woke up to a text from Lila. "Lila, I have a professional announcement." "Me? Should I be standing?" "Lila, as your instructor, I must inform you that your sidewalk frame showed improvement." "Me? That is a very romantic thing to say." "Lila, I'm not done." "Lila, as your date, I must inform you that your kissing requires further study." I stared at my phone like it had personally invented sunlight. "Me? I'm available for tutoring." Lila, I suspected you might be. For 3 days we existed in that strange, bright space between first kiss and definition. Texts before coffee, calls after work, small details exchanged like offerings. She learned I hated olives but respected their confidence. I learned she slept with one foot outside the blanket, taught kids ballet on Tuesday afternoons, and kept emergency chocolate in the studio office labeled tax documents. On Wednesday night, I arrived early for class and found her alone in the studio, standing near the mirrors in black leggings and a soft blue sweater, staring at the silver dress Julian had left behind. It hung from a hook on the wall, glittering under the lights like a dare. I paused in the doorway. Should I come back? She turned, and the smile she gave me was real but tired. No, come in. I did, closing the door behind me. Julian keeps texting, she said before I could ask. He wants me to perform with him at an alumni showcase next month. Says it would be good publicity for the studio. What do you want? She looked at the dress again. That's the problem. Part of me wants to prove I can wear it without hearing his voice in my head. And the other part? The other part wants to set it on fire in a parking lot and roast marshmallows. I can bring graham crackers. That got a laugh, but it faded quickly. I walked closer, stopping beside her, careful not to crowd. The dress was beautiful. Silver beads, low back, a slit designed for movement and applause. But on the hanger it looked strangely empty, like a costume waiting for someone else's memory. You don't have to prove anything to him, I said. I know. Do you? She turned toward me. I'm trying to. There was the vulnerable place again, the one she didn't hand out casually. I wanted to wrap my arms around her, but I remembered what she'd told me. Choice mattered. So I held out my hand. She looked at it, then slipped her fingers into mine. I hate that he can still make me doubt myself, she whispered. I pulled her closer then, slowly enough that she could refuse. She didn't. Her forehead came to rest against my chest, and my arms settled around her. Not rescuing, not fixing, just holding the woman I was rapidly becoming incapable of not choosing. You're allowed to have old bruises, I said into her hair. Doesn't mean he gets to press on them. Her hands tightened at my back. For a while we stood like that in the quiet studio, her cheek against my shirt, my chin near her hair, the mirrors reflecting us from every angle. Then she tipped her face up. You're annoyingly good at this. Hugging. Being decent. I've had practice appearing normal. She smiled, and I brushed one loose strand behind her ear because, this time, I knew she wanted me to. Her eyes darkened. Noah. It was barely more than breath. I kissed her. The first kiss in the studio felt different from the sidewalk. Slower. More intimate. The place where she had taught me how to hold her became the place where she held me back, fingers curling into my shirt as if she had been waiting all day to stop being composed. When we separated, she looked dazed for half a second. Then she cleared her throat. Class starts in 12 minutes. I can leave. You can stay? Her thumb traced my knuckle. But tonight in class, you are my student. And after? Her smile turned wicked. After, you can be a problem. I had never been so motivated to learn rumba. Class was torture. Lila was perfectly professional. Worse, she was extra professional. She corrected my elbow. She praised Mrs. Alvarez. She reminded the room that hips were not furniture and therefore allowed to move. But every time she passed me, there was the slightest shift in her expression, a secret tucked at the corner of her mouth. At the end, she clapped once. Good work, everyone. Practice at home. Preferably not in grocery store aisles unless the produce section inspires you. People laughed and gathered their things. I stayed by the window, pretending to check my phone while the room emptied. The retired dentist winked at me on his way out. Subtlety was dead. When the door finally closed, Lila locked it, turned around, and leaned back against it. Hi, she said. Hi. You were very well behaved. It was a heroic effort. I noticed. The distance between us was maybe 20 feet. It felt ceremonial. She crooked one finger. I crossed the room. No counts, no hesitation. When I reached her, she set both hands on my chest. I need to say something. My heart dropped because those words are never casual. Okay. I don't want to be careless with this, she said. With you. The studio is my work, and you're my student, and I know that's complicated. I can stop taking classes. You need them for the wedding. My mother has seen me fall off a ladder. She'll survive a bad foxtrot. Lila laughed softly, then sobered. I'm serious. So am I. I covered her hands with mine. I don't want to make your life harder. You don't. Her gaze held mine. That's what scares me. I frowned. Me not making your life harder? You making it feel easier. That undid me a little. She looked down at our joined hands. After Julian, I promised myself I wouldn't mix dancing and dating again. I told myself I needed clean lines, rules, control. And now? Now I keep thinking about you during songs I'm supposed to be teaching to other people. I smiled. That sounds disruptive. It is. You're very inconvenient. I've been called worse. I'm sure. Her fingers slid up to my collar, so here's my proposal. You finish the group course, I keep teaching. We don't make the studio weird for everyone else. And outside the studio? Her eyes lifted, bright and brave. Outside the studio, I want to keep seeing you, properly, dates, calls, kissing in locations where nobody is learning a box step. I pretended to consider it. That's a strong proposal. Noah. Yes, I said, grinning. Absolutely, yes. Relief softened her whole face. Then she kissed me against the studio door, and any remaining attempt at professionalism left the building. Her hands slid into my hair. Mine found her waist exactly where she had put them that first night. She smiled against my mouth when she felt it. Look at that, she murmured. Muscle memory. I had an excellent teacher. Gifted? Bossy. She bit my lower lip lightly. I forgot every joke I knew. A knock sounded at the door behind her. We froze. Lila closed her eyes. You have got to be kidding me. Another knock. Then Julian's voice came through the wood. Lila, I know you're in there. She stepped back, breathing unevenly, and for 1 second I saw the old reflex try to take her face. Then she looked at me. Not asking me to handle it, just reaching for steadiness. I took her hand and squeezed once. Her shoulders settled. She unlocked the door and opened it only halfway. Julian stood in the hall, rain on his coat, a glossy flyer in his hand. His eyes flicked from her swollen mouth to me behind her. His smile tightened. I brought the showcase materials, he said. Unless I'm interrupting another lesson. Lila didn't flinch. You are, she said, but not the kind you're invited to. I nearly choked. Julian's jaw flexed. You're making a mistake. No, she said, calm as music. I made one years ago. I'm done repeating it. She took the flyer from him, tore it cleanly in half, and handed it back. Then she closed the door. For a moment we stared at each other, then Lila burst out laughing, one hand over her mouth, half shocked at herself. I laughed too because joy had rushed in where fear had been. She stepped into me, wrapped her arms around my waist, and buried her smile against my chest. Still want to date the complicated dance teacher? She asked. I kissed the top of her head. With you specifically? I said. Always. Julian did not disappear dramatically. People like that rarely do. They fade in stages, testing doors they used to open without knocking. He sent 2 more texts. Lila didn't answer. He left 1 voicemail. She deleted it before the second sentence. Then, one Friday after class, she changed the studio locks. Not because I told her to. Not because I stood behind her with my arms crossed like some self-appointed guard dog. Because she wanted to. I was there when the locksmith handed her the new keys. Lila turned one over in her palm, then looked at me with a small, almost disbelieving smile. "That feels better than I expected," she said. "Good. You're not going to make a speech about new doors and old ghosts?" "I can, but it'll involve building code." "Please don't seduce me so aggressively in public." I laughed, and she slipped one of the new keys onto her ring. The silver dress still hung in the office, but it no longer looked like a dare. It looked like fabric. Later that night, after my final beginner class, Lila announced that I had officially completed the course. Mrs. Alvarez applauded. The retired dentist saluted. The college kid who had thankfully abandoned sunglasses yelled, "Speech!" "No," I said immediately. Lila folded her arms. "As your instructor, I think you should say a few words. As your boyfriend, I think you enjoy watching me suffer." The room went silent for half a heartbeat. Then everyone erupted. Lila's cheeks went pink. Mine probably did too, but I had chosen the word on purpose. Not date, not guy she was seeing. Boyfriend. A clear step onto the floor. Her eyes met mine across the studio, and the smile she gave me was worth every whistle in the room. After everyone left, she walked over slowly. "Boyfriend?" she asked. I rubbed the back of my neck. "Too much?" "No. No." She shook her head, still smiling. "Just making sure I heard you right." "You did." "And if I call you that?" My chest tightened in the best way. "I'd like that." She stepped into me and adjusted my collar with unnecessary care. My boyfriend still needs work on his Cuban motion. My girlfriend is relentless. She sounds gifted, bossy, careful. I kissed her before she could correct anything else. By the time Hannah's wedding arrived, I had practiced so much that my downstairs neighbor probably knew the foxtrot by vibration. Mom cried when she saw me in my suit. Hannah cried when she saw the reception hall. I nearly cried when I realized Lila had come. She stood near the entrance in a dark red dress, hair pinned on one side, looking beautiful enough to cause structural delays. "You came," I said, walking toward her. "I was invited." "By my sister, who has no boundaries?" "Your sister is excellent." "My sister is dangerous." Lila smoothed my tie. "Are you nervous?" "About the dance?" "Yes." "About me meeting your family?" "Also yes." "About both at once?" "I may require medical attention." She rose on her toes and kissed my cheek, close to my mouth the way she had that rainy night under the bakery awning. "You're not hopeless," she whispered. The wedding blurred in warm gold pieces after that, Hannah laughing with frosting on her thumb. My mother squeezing my hand too hard during the family photos. My father telling Lila embarrassing stories about me building a house out of couch cushions and charging admission. Then the music changed. Mom looked at me. I stood. For 1 second, the old fear came back. The sentence with teeth. The floor waiting for my apology. Then I saw Lila at the edge of the dance floor. She didn't give me a teacher's nod. She gave me a woman's smile. Proud, tender. Mine in the way someone chooses to stand beside you, not behind you. I led my mother into the first step, and I did not count. Mom cried again, which made leading slightly more complicated, but we made it through without disaster. Then Hannah dragged the wedding party out, and somehow I survived that too. When the song ended, everyone clapped. Lila was clapping hardest. I walked straight to her, breathless and grinning like an idiot. "Well?" I asked. She pretended to consider. "Your frame was respectable." "Respectable." "Your timing was mostly legal." "Mostly?" "And your confidence." Her eyes softened. "That was beautiful." I had no defense against that. Dance with me, I said. Her smile changed. Not instructor, not even girlfriend. Just Lila. Here? She asked, teasing. Right here. So she took my hand. In the middle of my sister's wedding reception, beneath strings of lights and paper lanterns, I placed my hand on Lila's waist exactly where she had taught me. This time, she didn't move it lower. She covered it with her own and held it there. A year after that night in the studio, Heart and Step had a new sign, new locks, and a beginner class so full, Lila had to hire another instructor. Julian became just a name that came up less and less, until one day I realized we hadn't spoken it in months. Lila still taught me sometimes, though our lessons had changed. She taught me that love was not supposed to feel like a test. I taught her that steady did not mean boring. She teased me for labeling the shelves in her storage room. I teased her for keeping chocolate in 3 separate, secret locations I found within 10 minutes. We fought sometimes because real love is not one endless song. She hated when I got quiet instead of saying I was hurt. I hated when she tried to make decisions alone because needing someone still scared her. But we learned. We asked. We came back to each other before the music ended. By the following spring, I was no longer a beginner, though Lila claimed this was under review. On Thursday nights, after the last class left and the bakery downstairs sent up the smell of sugar and warm butter, we would turn off half the lights and dance barefoot across the old wooden floor. No mirrors, no audience, no counting. Just her hand in mine, my palm at her waist, and the quiet trust of 2 people who had both been laughed at, doubted, handled badly, and still chosen tenderness anyway. One night, during a slow song, Lila rested her head against my chest. "You know," she murmured, "your hand is exactly right." I smiled into her hair. I had a strict teacher." "She sounds brilliant." "She changed my life." Lila lifted her face. I kissed her there in the soft studio light while rain tapped the windows above the bakery and the floor beneath us held every step we had survived. And this time, when the music ended, neither of us let go. What would you have done if your dance instructor slid your hand lower on her waist and told you, "I want your hand right here"? Have you ever experienced something similar, where one small touch changed everything? Tell your story in the comments. And for those who'd like to be a little closer to us, we've opened memberships where you'll get shorter exclusive stories every week with no ads. If you like this one, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.